Hi, welcome to the channel. Today's video, we're in the South Wales Valleys. We're on top of a hill. It's the tail end of Storm Amy, so there's gusts around 50 miles an hour up here. So I figured it'd be a really good time to come and pitch my favourite bad weather tent, because it is an inner pitch tent. It's a Nordisk Svalbard 1 SI. Now, most times when you pitch in for bad weather, you tend to pitch in the calm, get everything set up really neatly, and then wait for the winds and the bad weather to arrive. But I figured, as it's an inner pitch tent, what's it like to actually pitch it when the winds are already here? Because this is my go-to sort of winter, bad weather, high altitude kind of tent. So I figured I'd bring it up here and just see how easy it is to pitch when it's already windy. So I'll crack straight on. I've got some extra pegs and things like that, but we'll just see how easy it is to get this kind of quite lightweight, it's only 1.7 kilo tent, pitched inner first in conditions like these. Now the main challenge is to stop it flying away as you're getting it ready. So we're going to stuff things into my jacket for the time being, I think. Now this is my first proper, well, my second proper wild camping tent. And I purchased it because it's supposed to be really, really good in the wind. It can survive hurricane force winds up to 40 meters a second, which is about 90 miles an hour, I think. So I was really obsessed with getting the kind of most wind resistant tent I could find. And this was, in my price range, certainly pretty much it. And I've had it ever since, although I did start with the PU version and upgraded to this one second hand. But I've never actually pitched it in particularly bad weather. So this is a quality bit of kit with two nice DAC poles. It is really blowing up here. I wonder how bad the noise is going to be on the mic. So the advantage with an inner pitch tent in the wind is that when it's pitched with the outer on, it's a very slick outer because there's no poles exposed. But obviously the converse is true when you're pitching it. You're going to have the poles exposed, no guy lines, very limited pegging points. So it's whether you can get it pitched without damaging the tent and get the outer on without wrecking it, I suppose, is the real challenge. It's not the easiest thing to do. You almost don't need to put the front pole in, it's so inflated by the wind. Here we go. And it's not a continuous sleeve either, so you've got to keep finding the extra bits to go through. And obviously if it was raining now as well, with the inner exposed, it's not an ideal situation at all. This is really difficult. This is where a continuous pole sleeve is much better. Part two. And the pole is kind of coming apart as well at the end. All right, slight lull in the wind. Let's try and get this next bit in. I spoke too soon. I think this elastic's slightly loose in this pole because it keeps coming out. So that's the inner pitched. So we're now going to try and get the outer on. Now the outer does also factor around these poles, which is going to be a real challenge. But the clips are nice and easy. So try and find the factor at the top now. And there is actually some rain on the way as well. Everything is tangled up now. This is a nightmare. Trying to get this pole to sit properly has been a real problem. I've not got this bit of Velcro on, so it's moving around a little bit. Wow, we have managed to get it pitched and it's looking okay now. Now weirdly, on Nordisk's website, when they do a wind test of this, they pitch it with the head end in. Perhaps because you've got, I don't know, kind of greater guy and out access, but it seems to me that you want to pitch it that way into the wind because it's going to be brushing over it better. So that's the way I've pitched it. It's not perfect, it's a bit gusty in different directions. It's perhaps a bit more that way. But I did manage it. It wasn't the easiest thing to do. These Velcro things are an absolute nightmare to get on at this top end because it's catching so much wind. But you've really got to do it to make it taut. I mean, if you weren't pitching the wind, you could probably get it pitched a bit better. But I think it is what it is now. Really, it's up at least. Okay, so I decided not to be lazy and actually flip the tent round and pitch it tall end into the wind and see if that's any different, because when I camped in the snow on the mountain, I pitched it the head end into the wind just because the ground was slightly uneven. I didn't want to sleep my head sort of down, so I pitched it that way. And that is the way they show it on the website in the wind tunnel as well. So I wonder if it does perform slightly better, maybe less saggy this way round. It's easy doing the Velcro in the top that way, but what about the bottom? Now the Velcro this end is an absolute pain. It's just very hard to get this tent tensioned properly, I think. And this is just a nightmare. I don't know, does it look like it's sitting better now? It seems like the body is a bit better. Now it's catching on that head end. This seems a bit more structured. But there's a lot of sagging on going down here. But there's no real way of tightening that any further, so it is what it is. But yeah, managed to pitch it both ways, so that's one thing. So the benefit of posting it this way is that you do get the tiny porch out of the way of the wind a little bit. It's really buckling quite badly in the wind. Yeah, it doesn't feel as bad when you're in here, but yeah, the little porch is flapping around a fair amount. And it's generally the inner on this Svalbard one just always seems to be really, really saggy, which is weird because inner pitch tents, they should be, the inner should be nice and taut because it's much easier to pitch inner separately, but no, the inner on the Svalbard one is really quite saggy. Let's get inside and see what it's like. So, the saggy interior certainly improved this way. The airflow coming in this direction makes it better, but let's close the door and see if that makes a big difference. Certainly a lot more civilized in this direction, apart from the head end, which is, as you can see, getting crushed in quite a bit. So I'm not really sure how to solve that. It just seems to be part of the design that it moves that way. I guess that's why it's able to survive these kind of conditions, because it has a lot of flexibility in movement, so not the kind of sharp edges and structure that can easily snap. This one will bend and fold and move around. So I have to admit, I do prefer it pitched head on into the wind because the interior space is a lot less compromised and it's actually a lot less flappy and the sides are a lot less pushed in. Still not the ideal shelter, but I think in these kind of conditions it's doing just fine. And with the door sealed up, you've still got a little bit of usable porch there. It's not double zipped, but you do have a little zipped vent up here which you can open or close from the inside, so let in a bit of air or keep it out. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about whether you would use this tent. It is certainly a strong little tent, but I think some of the more modern designs would probably not fold like that. But these are available pretty cheap now. I've seen them go for about 100, 150 pounds in really, really good condition. So I know everyone's buying the Fjern Storm Grotta 1.5 at the moment, and I did come very close to buying that myself because it was so cheap. But I decided against it. I thought, no, you know what, I'll stick with my Svalbard one for the time being. It's a tent I know and I've relied on previously, so I'd avoid jumping on the bandwagon of getting that tent. Imagine getting those really awkward clips on in this kind of weather, and that's in the Fjern. This one here wasn't the easiest pitch, but as you saw, it has pitched okay. And yeah, the inner's a bit saggy, it's a bit flappy, but I do trust this in bad weather, and it'll still be my go-to winter tent. At least I've proved to myself that I can pitch it in bad weather. I've pitched it in the snow with reasonable winds, but yeah, this kind of gusting, consistent winds. Yeah, normally you try and get your tent pitched before this kind of weather hits, but it's nice to know that you can still pitch it even when the weather is this bad. So I've managed to quite drastically improve the tension of that top end. Now the issue with it is, when you just get it out of the bag and set it up, is that it's got a clip here that you can tighten to pull this out. Now the issue is that that's all dependent on the inner as well, because the inner comes out and that's what the clip goes into. Now the inner doesn't basically tension out far enough to get this taut. So what you can do is use the bit of strap that's tightened up, and it's actually got a little hoop at the end of it, so you can actually just use that to tension it nicely, and with one extra peg it's now completely transformed this saggy end, and now this middle structure as well, the guy lines, hold it much better. So that's now going to drastically improve the head end space and the structure of the porch as well, so much better. So I do think it is better pitched head on into the wind. You get a much better structure inside, and obviously the guy lines are more robust at this head end as well. So yeah, I think whenever I pitch it now, I'll pitch it into the wind and I'll use the extra peg to pull that guy line out further. and it's much, much better now in terms of shape. Still not the perfect pitch, it's a little bit uneven ground as well, but it's looking pretty good now. So there you have it, the Nordisk Svalbard 1SI, an oldie but a goodie. Still holds up in pretty bad conditions, and you can definitely pitch it either way in pretty high winds. But I'd recommend, based on just what I've done today, that you pitch it like they do on the Nordisk website, head on into the wind. You take an extra peg and you do that properly. But if you're going to peg in these kind of conditions, I'd advise you double peg it. I can see the tripod's only blown over. I'd advise you double peg it anyway. But this, maybe it's 50 miles an hour today, but this is obviously wind tested much higher than that. It's not going to be perhaps the most comfortable space, but now it's pitched properly, the interior space is pretty good, the sagging is gone, and the head end is absolutely usable. So you won't want to sit in there and cook, but to spend the night to see out a storm, I think it'll be just fine in this tent. So anyway, that was a bit of fun on a Saturday morning. So I've at least proved to myself I can take this out in all sorts of conditions and at least pitch it safely. So I'm going to pack it away now. I'll take a time lapse of packing away as well, just so you can see me have fun and games with that. And yeah, hopefully I will see you soon on a wild cam of some description. So yeah, stick around and I'll see you in the next one.